welcome everybody. I'm really glad we have this opportunity to connect. We're very grateful to Bay Area Cancer Connections for enabling us to stay connected and to stay socially connected, during this very strange time. So today's focus is going to be on sleep and stress management because they go together. Stress is often a major cause for poor sleep. So hopefully you all have the PowerPoint presentation in front of you, and you have a copy. You were emailed a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, so you can print that out as you will. And then I also included some recipes that I hope you'll take a little bit of time to review. One of them is chamomile tea, which is a major relaxer, and I think one of the most undervalued herbs, especially as it pertains to cancer management. And there's a recipe for a chamomile cooler, which is chamomile tea blended with watermelon and cucumber or any other fruit. A sleepy time smoothie, which is you can make for any time. You can have it during the day. It's not going to make you conk out, but it's just giving you herbs and foods that have a normalizing effect on sleep. And then there's a strawberry arugula salad that I think we're having issues with the formatting, so I will retype that and send it out to you. And then an easy zucchini saute, so you know what to do with all the gazillion zucchinis that are coming out of the garden at this time. And a Mediterranean salad recipe for the wonderful tomatoes and cucumbers that we have, another cancer-fighting salad. And then, yeah, I think that's it. So let's just rock and roll. And please read over the disclaimer. And stress and anxiety. What is stress? Stress is caused by an existing stress, a stimulus, something that causes you to do something, which is not necessarily bad. There's eustress, there's good stress, but then there's bad stress, like a stress from an unpleasant event, unpleasant cancer diagnosis. But when the stress continues and it turns into an anxiety, after the initial stress is gone, that's when it can be sometimes disruptive for our health. So one of our goals as it pertains to helping promote a better night's sleep is to helping to manage stress and anxiety. So what are the reasons for poor sleep? A big reason is excess stress. Again, not just regular stress, like I have to get up and go to work or do a presentation. No, stress because I'm worried and I have anxiety. So that's a common reason for poor sleep. Pain can be a reason for poor sleep. And this is something to discuss with your doctor. If pain is disrupting sleep, what is the pain coming from? What can you do for it? Whether it's a pharmaceutical, whether there's a natural intervention. Sleep apnea, also a common reason for sleep. You may not even know that you have it. Again, something to discuss with your doctor, something to rule out. Sleep apnea, you're not breathing deeply and getting oxygen to the brain, so you will wake up. It's very much a showstopper. So discuss with your doctor, hey, how do I know I have sleep apnea? Medication side effects. You're taking medication. Sometimes the medication they give you before chemo to manage side effects, the steroids, they can jack you up and interfere with sleep. Everybody reacts to these drugs individually. So some people may need a lower dose. But again, chat with your doctor. Hey, I'm really having trouble with sleep. Is there any medications that is causing that? Pain, sleep apnea. A lot of times, especially as we get older and there's stress, changes in circadian rhythm happen. And circadian rhythm is regulated by a hormone cortisol from the adrenal glands and melatonin from the pineal gland in the brain. And we know that cortisol, if you look at our chart, cortisol is that black line that is high during the day and low at night. And melatonin is the opposite. It's high at night, it's low during the day. And this is a normal pattern. And what we find commonly with chronic sleep issues is this cortisol melatonin rhythm can get off. So one of our goals nutritionally is, hey, how do we restore cortisol melatonin irregularities? We know that chronic stress will jack up cortisol and that will decrease melatonin. So we need to find ways to calm and manage stress. Other reasons for poor sleep, hormone imbalances. The big hormone that we're concerned with nutritionally is the hormones that are concerned with blood sugar balance. This is our insulin and our glucagon coming from the pancreas, coming from the liver. So we know that any hormone imbalance can interfere with sleep. Progesterone and estrogen balance. Sometimes if you put on an estrogen blocker, you'll find that that will disrupt hormones. Hot flashes from fluctuating or low estrogen can cause adrenaline surge, which can contribute to poor sleep. Excess cortisol or cortisol spikes, that will interfere. So then we know that low melatonin sometimes is associated with trouble falling asleep, and low Gaba, which we'll talk about, a brain neurotransmitter, the anti-anxiety hormone, is the one that, if it's low, can interfere with staying asleep. So what we want to do is, okay, what do we do about this hormone imbalances that come about? And some of these come about naturally with age. Stress definitely pushes them, pushes more imbalance. And then the cancer journey itself, some of the treatments can actually result in hormone imbalances. So nutritionally, what can we do? What's under our control? That's going to be the focus of our discussion. And sometimes that's efficient and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we need to do some other modalities to help restore balance, some other botanicals or acupuncture, but we always start with the basics. So cancer-related stress can interfere with sleep. And cancer-related stress, as you could probably tell me, is a mixed bag of feelings and worries and challenges. It can vary with the individual. These stresses can be physical, psychological, spiritual, and they can manifest in many ways. It's very depleting. Cancer can be an emotional roller coaster ride that stresses your body, mind, and spirit. So what's the role of nutrition? What's the role of what do you eat? What do you drink? When do you eat? Why do you eat? Where do you eat? All of these things can help. And this is what we're going to focus on. What's under your control on a day-by-day basis. So calming down stress. Doesn't that sound nice? Let's just take the stress be gone wand and go, whoo, and everybody will be wonderful. But what can we do? We know that stress is bad for us. And then we're going to get stressed about being stressed. Oh my God, I'm stressed. Oh my God, I'm not sleeping. And it's just this vicious circle. Let's just calm it down. And we know that stress, worry, and anxiety during the day will interfere with sleep at night. So it isn't just taking melatonin or taking some chamomile tea at night and boom, the switch, you're going to sleep. If it's been a particularly stressful day, the nighttime could be problematic in terms of sleep. What can we do? Number one, regular meals. Even if you're not hungry, just a little bit to balance blood sugar. Erratic blood sugar, too high, too low, is going to set you up for imbalance and stress. Blood sugar drops low, the brain screams, it makes stress hormones to get blood sugar up. Regular meals at regular times so that we don't want to go long periods of time without having a meal. But then again, we don't want to fill up on a big meal or go all day without eating and then have a big dinner. It's better to have like smaller meals more frequently, and you have to fine tune what works for you. Relaxation during the day. So you see the picture of my little Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree. So that's you. You're going to be little Zen monks walking around, right? Saying, I'm not going to get stressed. I'm going to keep myself calm, right? Ways to do that. Regular exercise. For a brisk walk, do a Zoom Qigong class or a Tai Chi class. or a yoga class or an exercise class, a chair exercise class. Walking is wonderful, just getting outside for a power walk. Yoga is wonderful. Mindfulness meditation. There are also phone apps, relaxation phone apps that are biofeedback based, such as Calm and Headspace. So I have some people who do it like when they get up in the morning and then before their meals and then at bedtime. So that kind of regularity. Breathing exercises are important. We have to remind ourselves to breathe. When we're stressed, we tend to do shallow breathing, and we'll talk about that. Progressive muscle relaxation, you can check that out. There are YouTubes that guide you through how to do that. Many people like to do that when they get to bed, and if the monkey brain has got all these thoughts, they want to shut it down. They do a progressive muscle relaxation. You tense your body, tense, relax. Tense an arm, relax. And maybe some of you have done that as part of a yoga class, but I find that works for me when I wake up in the morning. I wake up in the middle of the night and start thinking of things I need to do. It's like, whoa, I just do my check-in with all my body parts, and it helps me. Massage acupuncture, but nowadays we're not going out so much, but in the future when we're not in this situation, massage and acupuncture can be very helpful. So why do you need sleep? Rest and rejuvenation. This is our building and our repair time. We're cleaning house, we're actually detoxing the brain. This is why if you haven't got a good night's sleep, the next day you feel almost hungover. It's like nothing works. The brain just was not able to detox. But also it's when we build bone, which is really important, especially if we're on medication that may be contributing to bone loss. As we get older, we experience bone loss. This is our rejuvenation time. We're building bone, lean muscle mass. We're stimulating the bone marrow. So if we have low white counts, low red counts, this is a time when things are kind of getting back to normal. This is all orchestrated by growth hormone, which is secreted from the brain, and that's what actually orchestrates this building. It also helps us regulate appetite and manage weight through the hormones leptin and ghrelin. If you might have experienced that if you didn't sleep good the next day, what kind of foods do you want? It's like, well, I want carbs, because the carbs are like a quick way to build up serotonin. And you find if you did sleep well, you make better choices. In addition, this is what we're really concerned about now when we're managing cancer and when we're managing exposure to respiratory viruses. We want to protect ourselves. We want to maximize immune surveillance. Immune cells are more active during sleep. The magic time is 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's the time we'd really like to be asleep. So you don't want to go to bed at 11. If you go to bed at 10, 10:30, then you can be asleep by 11, sleep till 2. You're getting the bulk of that metabolic clearing and the immune surveillance. During this time, natural killer cells, NK cells, they are scoping out any weirdo cancer cells and taking them out. NK cells are also a first line defense against viruses. So there's a lot of commonalities with the immune system managing cancer, fighting renegade cancer cells, as well as being able to be a defense to any respiratory viruses that might make their way in. So our goal is to increase immune strength and balance, and that one of the ways we do that is by getting high quality sleep. So strategies to calm stress and anxiety. What's our game plan? Okay, there's 3 focus. First one is on diet. The second one is on lifestyle. And the third one is on nutrients. So the nutrients are extra vitamins and minerals and herbs and melatonin. And you notice the nutrients are not a substitute for the diet. So if the drinking and eating patterns are not really optimal, just taking melatonin or taking some other herbs or chamomile, it's not going to be as effective. It's a package deal. So what are we eating? When, why, where, how? And then our lifestyle. Are we exercising? How is our sleep? Are we socializing and connecting and doing calming activities? So that's the game plan. So let's start out. What's number one of our plan? You got to follow a routine, a self-care routine. And I think this is really important now that we're home more and now that we're in a time of uncertainty. And I don't know about you, but I sometimes get these little waves of, oh my gosh, this is ever going to end. You know, I thought we would have this by now and we'd get back to normal. And it's so, and then I just pass and say, okay, let's just stick to my routine, my self-care routine, drinking water. Some people find it helpful to keep a journal. Meals and snacks, shopping and supplies. Now, during this time, maybe you are shopping, maybe you are having someone else shop for you. So this is an added factor that we have to put more energy into planning for shopping. What's the plan? Breathing. We need a breathing plan because stress, right, causes us to do so. And I find that people just doing deep breathing can be wonderful. It sounds so simple, but remember, it's the simple things that we always want to start with. Exercise, sleep, socializing, very important. Even though it's done in a different way, maybe you're doing Zoom calls with family, nature time, getting out. So what is your routine? Follow a nighttime routine, set intention, bed by 10 o'clock. Now, if many of you say, well, this isn't going to happen, if I get in bed at 10, I'll be up at 2. Baby steps towards this. I tell people try for a 10 at 10, 10 days at 10 p.m., 10 nights, go to bed at 10 p.m. Or if you are a person that stays up late, you could try a goal. Go to bed 15 minutes earlier each night for a couple of days, then maybe 30 minutes earlier for a couple of days. So the goal is to kind of get yourself into that mode, baby steps toward, I want to be in bed asleep by 10:30. That's your goal. What are baby steps to get there? Create a sleep sanctuary, block light, because any light is going to cause your melatonin to go down, right? So your light has to, disrupts your circadian rhythm. Blackout shades, sleep mask, lower temperature. Of course, right now you're doing the best that you can. Maybe you need a fan. Make sure the airflow is good. Maybe a fan if that works for you. And then for some people, you can be very affected by blue light. And blue light is light that comes from electronic, digital gadgets. So this would be computers, even TV, cell phones, pads, any of these kinds of things. Some people are very sensitive to this. Blue light is stimulating, right? That's why it works so good in the daytime to get out and let sunlight hit your eyes. That blue light stimulating. Nighttime, not so good. So what can you do about this? Well, here's a link that you can check out to give you more information about blue light. Some people use glasses when they're watching TV, or your digital equipment can have a blue light screen on it. I think iPhone automatically has like a warmer light that goes on at night. Try an evening Epsom salts bath or foot bath where you put some magnesium. And also having an evening foot bath with Epsom salts, you're giving yourself this message that, okay, I'm done. You know, I'm not going to start any big activity now. And these are all the rituals that we go through to tell ourselves that it's time to go to bed. Think of like a toddler when you would have bath time and story time and giving yourself that message, it's time to wind down. Have a cup of calm, a cup of chamomile tea. That can also be a calming routine. So our goal is to normalize circadian rhythm. And normalizing circadian rhythm is helpful for sleep, but it's also helpful for managing cancer. We find that cancer has a rhythm. In fact, there's some practitioners that recommend chemotherapy be given at a particular time. It's called chronotherapy. But what one thing we have found is that people who have low melatonin are higher risk for cancer, and that a lot of people with cancer, when we test the melatonin, we find that it's low. So our goal is to normalize cortisol and melatonin. How do we do that? What's under our control? Get sunlight and exercise in the morning. That blue light will hit your eyes, and even if you haven't slept as well, get yourself out of bed at least 5-10 minutes, let the sunlight hit your eyes, and that will cause melatonin to go down and cortisol to go up. Experience complete darkness while sleeping to stimulate melatonin. Avoid blue light 2 to 3 hours before bed or wear glasses. The goal is 7 to 9 hours sleep per night. Some people will actually take melatonin, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about the nutrients. Okay, so hydrate. Again, what's under your control? Set up a routine. Got a routine for breathing. I have a routine for hydrating. So I'm drinking I put a Moroccan mint tea bag in my jar of water. That's my latest, and I've been drinking that. Dehydration stresses your brain. Your brain is 85% water. So this is very common. You can add lemon or cucumber or a tea bag. You can drink broth, especially if you are struggling with your cancer treatment and your appetite's not so great. You could be sipping on broth, which is going to be hydrating you while giving you nutrition. So everybody's needs are a little bit different. Herb tea, herb hydration is a wonderful opportunity to get herb tea in. So I'm actually drinking my herb tea, and I'm fighting cancer at the same time. So for example, Tulsi tea, holy basil tea, very, very calming. But holy basil also has amazing cancer fighting properties. So this is what we always think about. What can we be drinking and eating that we're getting multiple benefits from? And then a smoothie. I gave you a recipe for a sleepy time smoothie that you could have in the evening, or you could have it in the afternoon. And what's your favorite drink? So you guys feel free to put a chat box besides a question. You could say, hey, this is what I've been doing for hydration, and it's really the bomb, right? Putting a bunch of oranges in a jar and filling it up with water, putting some raspberries and putting some mint, pineapple mint. So get creative. I've been doing watermelon. I think the next slide is a watermelon. I put watermelon in the blender. Now I put a cucumber in the blender, and I put a little bit of mint afterwards. Blend it all up, then and I put a jalapeno pepper. So I get kind of creative on doing my blended stuff. Watermelon, maybe a cucumber, maybe a little mint, maybe a pinch of salt, put a jalapeno, put some olive oil. Get kind of creative on coming up with some fun hydration drinks. So tea, enjoy a cup of calm. I think tea is just so underutilized as a cancer fighting tool. Check out the book, Cancer Hates Tea, that's at the bottom. They may have it at the library. What a fun book. It was written by a woman that had cancer and got really angry and said, what can I do about this? I'm going to drink tea. And she started researching all the wonderful cancer fighting attributes that tea had. And so it's really kind of a fun book. Any kind of tea that you like. So like I said, you could take a jar of water and put a tea bag in there. So it's basically a cold brew. And now I'm doing Moroccan mint because it's a little bit hot outside. And this is, I find that if I do this, I drink more water than if I just have a glass of water. It's just more interesting. Tulsi tea or chamomile tea are common. So if we're managing stress and want sleep, those might be good choices. Knowing at the same time that you are fighting cancer when you're drinking tea. For example, chamomile tea is very high in apigenin, a very potent polyphenol, APIGENIN. Here it is, chamomile tea, chamomile extract. There was a study where people took 500 milligram capsule of chamomile 3 times a day, and it actually outperformed the drug for general anxiety disorder. I don't really want to take a chamomile capsule, but I'll drink chamomile tea. I think it's wonderful. I like making chamomile tea in a French press. It seems to just bring out its fragrance a little bit more. So, and ordering loose organic chamomile tea is going to be much more potent than say a chamomile tea bag, right? But if you have a tea bag, that would be great. Use what you have. But if you want to make it even more potent, go with the loose. A summertime smoothie, doesn't that look good? Now that tells you cancer fighting. What is it about that tells you that it's cancer fighting, right? The color. Why? What's the color mean? The color is those proanthocyanidins, right? Or there's all these different big name words that basically mean these are antioxidants. These are plant nutrients that the plant uses to protect itself. And when we take it in, it has all sorts of benefits for us. So this is a cool thing we have going on with plants. So this is just what I would do for a summertime smoothie. I put some liquid, some protein. Here are some options. Of course, fruit this time of the year, some greens, and a little bit of fat. The reason why you want fat in your smoothie is the fat's going to enable you to absorb your fat-soluble vitamins, right? So people that do green smoothies and a bunch of veggies, put a little bit of fat, some nuts, and some avocado. So check out this website by Dr. Pompa. He's got some fun smoothies. So using this smoothie as a way to get in added nutrition and a way to hydrate. And then at night, because we're talking about sleeping and we're always talking about fighting cancer, moon milk. And typically this is warm, but I tried making it and then cooling it and it worked just fine. So moon milk, golden moon milk, is basically turmeric milk, where you mix any kind of milk with some turmeric powder, ginger powder, black pepper, cinnamon if you want. And then if you want to get fancy, you can add some ashwagandha powder or reishi powder. Why would I want to do that? Well, reishi powder, very, very potent cancer fighting, but also it's the mushroom that really has a tendency to promote better sleep. Ashwagandha is another Ayurvedic herb, such as holy basil, that also has a calming. It's a very nice adaptogenic herb, but you could just do your turmeric as well. You can also buy golden milk already made. So that's something that you could think of as kind of like an evening nightcap. So what to eat? Okay, let's get down to our plan. Remember, this is our plan to calm stress and anxiety and promote a better night's sleep. So remember, what we're doing during the day is going to have a huge effect on how well we're going to sleep at night. So basically, we're going to have our macronutrients. So that's our carbs, our protein, and our fat. And how is it distributed? Well, we have carbs are basically veggies. So our plate, if you look up here in the corner, 50% of our plate is going to be non-starchy carbs. This is our broccoli, our lettuce, our chard, our cucumbers, our fibrous, all our different types of wonderful veggies. The starchy veggies like potatoes and grains and beans, those are going to be less on our plate, about 25%. And then this is for most people too. Of course, there's individual considerations, but the protein, again, is about 25% of your plate, about the size of the palm of your hand, right? So carbs are going to give you quick energy, B vitamins and minerals, and we get them from veggies, whole grains, beans, and fruit. Protein is really important to building and repair. It's really important for brain hormones. It's what we make hormones from, and protein is what we make immune factors from. So remember, we want our immune systems robust, not only to manage cancer, but also to fight respiratory viruses. And this is why we need an intake of protein, depending on what's going on. If you're currently in chemotherapy or radiation, your protein needs might be a little bit more. And so this is where we get organic animal foods, eggs, fish, or our plant foods, nuts, seeds, beans. So a plant-based diet is really what's a healthy diet. So that's mostly plant foods with small amounts of animal foods that are very high quality. That's kind of the guideline. And then fat, the most interesting macronutrient, is needed for brain health, right? So a fat-free, low-fat diet it's not really conducive to, the brain is mostly fat, fathead, the whole idea with that. Brain is water and fat. How much fat? Oh, the right amount of fat, right? And healthy fats. And this is where we make sure to include your plant fats and your cold water fish. So a diet that doesn't have sufficient fat, you won't sleep so well. A diet that has too much fat or processed fats, not good fats, trans fats, you won't sleep so good. So we focus on the right amount of healthy fats that we get from these sources. Then there's herbs and spices, which have immune supporting, cancer fighting properties as well, and they just liven up, spice our food up. And this is where our garlic, our ginger, our turmeric, our cumin, cinnamon, cardamom, whatever spice feels right for you, we want to add spices to our food. Our booster foods would include, say, apple cider vinegar, which we use a lot of times to help digestion. A tablespoon of vinegar in a cup of water can help us digest our food. Ground flax, lots of research about ground flax fights viruses. The lignans in flax fights viruses. It's like all plant foods. This is why it's so important to have a diversity of plant foods, because all plant foods have multitaskers, and they can be helping to turn off cancer promoting genes, right? And helping to turn on cancer inhibiting genes. And they can be working as antivirals, right? So flax is one of those. We benefit from so many. We get healthy omega-3 fats, we get lignans, we get soluble fiber. We would add that, say, to oatmeal, to granola, to a smoothie. Seaweed, seed vegetables, add minerals. You can get them dehydrated and add them to soups, or use them like nori sprinkle, spirulina and a green powder, and then broth. Broth is a booster food, especially if you're struggling, your appetite isn't so good, or your digestion's not so great. Long simmered broth, or even if you have to, a pre-made broth, sipping on that. You could add some miso paste to it. And if you need to, a protein powder, such as a whey protein powder, to boost the immune system and give you complete protein. So don't forget about cultured foods and fermented foods, right? Yogurt and kefir. If you're not doing dairy because you have a dairy allergy or you don't do well with dairy, cashew yogurt. I've been making cashew yogurt, and it's really easy to make and it's delicious. You can buy it as well. Sauerkraut or kimchi. I got the best tasting sauerkraut kimchi. I think I got it at Whole Foods. And it was beets. Oh, it was so delicious. Beet ginger sauerkraut. And just having that, like a couple tablespoons to a cup as a condiment with a meal, this is really going to be beneficial for digestion and also for immune support, because the immune system is in the GI. We want to replenish and balance gut bacteria. And here's the biggie take-home point. An abundance and diversity of plant foods, veggies, fruit, beans, whole grains, nuts, seeds, herbs. And this is because it provides food for the gut bacteria. And so check this out. Self-reported sleep quality is associated with the gut microbiome in young, healthy adults. There are so many studies on the gut microbiome that it's like, what doesn't it affect? Right? So we know that the gut microbiome determines the immune system in the whole body. And we know that this is really important for cancer, and that they found that there are particular strains of bacteria that are actually very, very helpful for helping to keep our immune system robust. And it's good to get these from your cultured foods as opposed to, say, taking your probiotic supplements. So sleep quality and microbiome. Good self-reported sleep was positively associated with microbial diversity. So this is the deal. It's not so much that taking the probiotics, it's taking the food that the probiotic bacteria want to eat, and that's plant foods. So for example, have a white potato, have a sweet potato, a purple potato, have carrots, have beets, these are starches, have quinoa, wild rice, have your asparagus when it's in season, your tomatoes, your cucumbers. The more diversity you can get in plant foods, the more diverse microbiome. The more diverse the microbiome, the better sleep, but also the healthier the person. So what's an example of an eating plan for better sleep? Well, it's hard for me to say, hey, here's a sample diet plan that maybe I would do, but of course you have to figure out what's going to work for you. These are just ideas. So for example, breakfast, sauteed greens and mushrooms with eggs, spices, and then a little kimchi on the side. And what you could do also is you could make like a frittata, make it ahead of time, saute some veggies and spices, beat some eggs, pour them together, bake it or cook it on the stove, and then you've got 4 meals. You divide it up. Again, I'm getting my protein, I'm getting some carbs, and I'm getting some veggies, right? And I'm even sneaking in some mushrooms maybe. You don't want to have eggs. Let's do some steel-cut oatmeal or granola. Lately, I've been doing a grain-free granola that I get from Costco. That's the bomb. It's got coconut in it. And I add yogurt, cashew yogurt I add nuts, I add seeds, I add fruit, I add flax, I add hemp nuts, or they're called hemp hearts, or I add sprouted sunflower seeds, and I add cinnamon. And this is such a satisfying meal for me. I sometimes put some, I'll put almond milk, and I'll also put a little bit of plum juice in there because the granola and yogurt make it clumpy. And so I add a little pomegranate juice. So you may want to try that. How about sweet potato on toast? How's that sound? Does that sound weird? I thought it sounded weird, but then I tried it and thought, this is the bomb. So if I bake a whole bunch of sweet potatoes and I keep them in the refrigerator with the little jackets on, then when I need them, I take them out and have them at room temperature or heat them up and putting them on toast. I may put an egg on here as well. I may put sweet potato or avocado and a hard-boiled egg if I hard-boiled a bunch of eggs. So this would be like a breakfast option. Lunch would be a summer salad, and I gave you some ideas for salad. We'll talk about, hey, you need some protein, put some salmon or put some sardines. Mash up some canned sardines with mayo, delicious. How about a Nourish bowl? Get a beautiful bowl, put some greens, put some veggies, maybe some leftover cooked broccoli or some green beans, leftover cooked quinoa, some beans. I take a can of beans, rinse it out, and cook them on the stove a little bit with some diced tomatoes, and I keep them in the refrigerator so they're ready to go. I can have them with eggs. Up here, I could have my eggs, and I could add like my beans to this. And then dinner, sauteed or steamed zucchini. I gave you a recipe for some zucchini, I think easy zucchini saute, because right now, if you have a garden or other people have gardens, there's a lot of zucchini. And I like to saute oyster mushrooms, and that's sort of like my animal food substitute. And then I'll have it with beans, with lime and cumin, or whatever I have, corn on the cob. Barbecue chicken, even if you get like a cooked chicken or you barbecue chicken, grill some veggies. I like to take the zucchini, cut it longitudinally, put some olive oil and spices, and I grill it on the grill with some chicken. It's awesome. And then there's the arugula strawberry pecan salad that I will send to you. Then maybe cauliflower rice. I don't know if you guys have checked out cauliflower rice. I found a big package in Costco that looked pretty good. Didn't really have a lot of different additives, but I tried making the cauliflower rice myself, and it was kind of fun. I don't really call it rice for my husband though, because if I say, hey, rice, he's like, this is so not rice, but it's a cauliflower dish. And it's, why would I want to get cauliflower in instead of rice? Well, the cauliflower is going to give me a lot more nutrition, a lot more fiber, and it's a crucifer vegetable that actually has glucosinolates, major cancer-fighting food, right? So these are examples. You probably have your own examples. These would be examples of snacks. One of my favorite snacks when figs are in season is to cut the fig in half, put a dollop of goat cheese, put a walnut piece on it, and that's my beautiful little hors d'oeuvre kind of thing. a quarter cup of nuts or trail mix, or just oatmeal. If I make a big batch of oatmeal, that's like several meals. And oatmeal can be an anytime meal, and it also can be a snack. Baked sweet potato, cup of broth. And then we talked a little bit already about drinks. If you notice down at the bottom, it says tart cherry tea. Tart cherries are a natural source of melatonin. You can get tart cherry juice. I'll make a tea, like a chamomile tea, and I'll put a little bit of tart cherries in it. So yeah, some ideas. So balancing blood sugar, we discussed this, having regular meals at regular times. So when we're managing cancer, we are exploring that idea of extending the nighttime fast. Many of you have heard of this. Very, very good data about this helps to really engage the immune system to fight cancer. Also helps to balance blood sugar. So we have our dinner by 5, 7 o'clock, and we don't have any calories at all. No sweets, just water, herb tea until breakfast, which will be any time between like 7 to 9 a.m., depending on how long your fast is. We find that people who do that are having pretty good success, and especially for weight management and boosting immune system. So that's a goal. Maybe you've heard of that. Making sure your portions are not distorted, portion distorted, right? So most people tend to eat a little bit too much. So we need to come up with what is actually the right portions for you. Avoid eating late at night, dinner by 5, 7 o'clock. I find a lot of people that I've been working with, we've been coming into, as we get older and we're managing a chronic disease like cancer is we work with coming up with an eating plan that works for the individual. So I'm finding a lot of people, especially if you get older, we do really well having like 2 meals a day, maybe like having breakfast at sometime 8 to 10 a.m., then having a bigger meal about 2 to 3 p.m., and then that's it. If you have wiggly blood sugar or low blood sugar, or you're diabetic or taking some medications, that may not be for you. But this is, a lot of people have been kind of exploring this. So we basically need to come up with what's the eating plan for you. Yeah, so eating for better sleep is avoid being too full or too hungry at bedtime. Allow at least 2 hours between a meal and bedtime. So let me comment on that, too hungry at bedtime. There are some people who have low blood sugar tendencies and they can't really go very long. So there are the people that can't do that intermittent fasting, extended fast. These are the people that they just get jittery. If you get jittery without food a couple of hours, then you need to eat every couple of hours. And you might be the person who actually does need to have a bedtime snack, such as oatmeal or crackers, hummus. So again, we have to honor our individual needs. Having a lighter meal later in the day. So if you do this, having a bigger meal to sometime between 2 and maybe 5 p.m., and then if you need to eat again, it's a smaller meal, like a cup of soup. And we're finding that this is working really good for cell detox and immune system regulation, is having that larger meal earlier in the day, and then if necessary, a lighter meal later, as opposed to what a lot of us do when we're working and coming home, we have the big meal. So that's kind of a benefit for me from working at home, is I'm having the main meal at 5 o'clock. My husband doesn't necessarily want to do that, but it's like, for me, that works for weight management. So we have to kind of do some exploring. Caffeine definitely can interfere with sleep. Caffeine at any time of the day. So even having that wonderful cup of coffee in the morning could be interfering with sleep. Michael Pollan, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Michael Pollan. He has an audio book that just came out, and it's called Caffeine and How It Made Civilization. It's fascinating. He talks about the history. He also talks about the, how it affects the body, but everybody's different. Some people can have caffeine. It doesn't seem to make a difference. Some people, it does make a difference. And I've had a lot of people sleep better when they completely cut out caffeine. just saying. And tea has a lot less caffeine. And caffeine, it interfered with the slow brain waves. Alcohol interferes with REM. So alcohol was another showstopper for sleep. Although some people claim if they have one drink, and as long as it's before 5 p.m., then they're fine. It's actually having more than one drink and having it later is where you get into sleep disruption. But again, everybody is different. So what are foods to calm the mind, right? Which will help us. Mineral-rich foods, veggies, veggies, veggies. So if you've got a plant-focused diet, you'll be good. Magnesium-rich foods. Magnesium's the relaxation mineral. So here's the list of magnesium foods that are down on the bottom. Chocolate, how about that, right? Seeds, bananas, avocados, including these foods in your daily diet will be very helpful for helping you get the nutrition that you need to help support sleep. And then fat-rich foods, making sure you have small amounts of high-quality fat as part of your diet. Foods to avoid the usual culprits. They're depleting and imbalancing. How to eat, what, why, when, where, and how. This is a fun little book by Thich Nhat Hanh. And what it is, he's got these little sayings. And just reading one of his little sayings at the meal table tends to kind of put you into a different mindful space. So mindful eating is setting intention, relaxed state of mind, taking a couple of deep breaths, saying a grace, and chewing well. And that can help you get more nutrition from your food, as well as to shift your nervous system into a calmer mode. So I think that before eating is a good time to practice breathing and getting to the mindful space. I want you to digest and absorb more of the nutrients from your food, but it's a good opportunity to kind of get into that, that Zen mode. So balancing brain chemistry, I thought maybe I would share with you, well, what's some of the things that's going on in the brain and chemistry and biochemistry wise. So our goal is to nourish the parasympathetic-the. This is what deep breathing does. This is what exercise can do. And we want to calm the sympathetic, which is what the on. So we basically need a balance. And if we're stressed out, we tend to be in sympathetic overload. That's going to mess up sleep. And that's also not good for our immune system, because sympathetic overdrive and high stress is going to deplete our immune system, which is not what we want to do. So to nourish the parasympathetic, what we've been talking about, are regular meals, exercise, and then relaxation. So what works for you? You know, what are you doing? And feel free to type it in your chat. What do you do that tends to relax you? Is it listening to music? Is it reading a book? Is it talking to children or grandchildren by FaceTime or Zoom or whatever? Is it walking outside? But this is what nourishes the parasympathetic. And this is that breathing technique that you can check out. Exercise oxygenates and calms the brain. A brisk walk outside is going to recharge and build brain cells, stimulates digestion and elimination, activates the immune system, and releases endorphins, which are those feel-good hormones that interact with our other hormones. Walking, there's a study that showed just 7,000 steps a day. I don't know if you're going to count them or you're going to have a Fitbit, but just going out for a walk every day tends to give you a break from you, and check out the birds, check out the flowers. So I did want to give you a little primer on brain hormones, because if we know what the brain hormones are, then we can figure out how to optimize them. So serotonin is the feel-good hormone. It also is a hormone related to appetites. We know low serotonin, we want to eat more and we crave carbs. It also helps us sleep. GABA is the anti-anxiety hormone, like that one. That helps us stay asleep. Dopamine is motivation and reward, tends to be stimulating. Some people are low in that. It can actually trigger addictions. Norepinephrine is another alertness and energy. But the important thing is brain hormones interact with all other hormones, blood sugar regulating hormones, adrenal thyroid hormones, and sex hormones. These guys have to be working well in order for our brain well. Hormones work. All our hormones work together. So these are ways to raise your serotonin, your feel good. Chocolate. But here's the deal about chocolate. It does have sugar. So we're talking small amounts. So ironically, if you're low in serotonin, you have cravings, you may not be able to control yourself. So you can't have that little square. You want to have the whole bar, right? So if that's the deal, maybe chocolate's not such a good one for you, right? But walnuts, leafy greens, bananas. Look at this, oats. So oatmeal is very, very helpful for calming. Almonds are a brain food or a brain food. Walking raises serotonin. So what raises serotonin? Pretty much everything that we talked about. So I did want to share that melatonin is more than sleep regulation, that it also is a potent antioxidant, and it inhibits tumor growth. And I think I've mentioned before that low melatonin levels are associated with a higher risk for cancer. So many people are taking melatonin. How much melatonin, what kind of melatonin? Very individual. You could start out slow, such as 1 milligram, see if you sleep better. Some people get up to like 10 or 20 milligrams, and some people think that sustained release works better for them. Melatonin is often given by alternative practitioners or other practitioners, especially for breast cancer treatment. But sticking to the lower doses, I always think gentle is always good to start with, because your body's making its own melatonin, and we'll talk about that. One thing about melatonin is it's the anti-cancer hormone, and that it can enhance chemo and radiation while not interfering with treatment and protect against side effects, as well as having direct anti-tumor activity. There's many clinical trials, and here are some references on melatonin. So how to support melatonin: sleeping in the dark, avoiding blue light, exercise and sunlight in the day, and then foods with tryptophan, and I gave you a list for that. So what to know about melatonin and serotonin is that tryptophan is a protein precursor, an amino acid. It gets converted to 5-HTP, and that gets converted to serotonin, and that gets converted to melatonin. So for a lot of times, a lot of people, we don't do this conversion really well, especially if we don't have enough vitamin B6 and magnesium. So this is what we want: rich vitamin B6 rich foods, and we want magnesium rich foods. And for some people, we actually take that with a supplement. You'll notice sleep supplements may have tryptophan, they may have serotonin, they may have melatonin, but they may also have B6 and magnesium. So this is how, but supporting your body in its way to make its own melatonin. What happens is with age is that the pineal gland isn't as efficient at making melatonin. So it's really common to have less melatonin as we age. And so this is why melatonin can be helpful for people. So nutrients, herbs, and supplements, always check with a medical doctor before taking any herb or supplement, because of interactions with a condition or with a medication that you're on or with a treatment. So always check with your medical doctor. Melatonin's one of the biggies, and that's before bedtime typically. Some people say at bedtime, some people say 30 minutes before. So melatonin, you can take it by itself. We talked about the dosing, tends to be individual. Sustained release tends to be individual. To boost serotonin, as we discussed, 5-HTP, which stands for 5-hydroxytryptophan. because tryptophan, which we get from foods, it's a protein, it gets converted to 5-hydroxytryptophan, which is shortened to 5-HTP. That gets converted to serotonin, and that gets converted to melatonin. In order to do that effectively, we need B6. And here's another little tidbit. Not everybody converts B6 to its activated form, so P5P is the active form, and that's often included in some supplements for sleep and calming, as well as magnesium cofactor. There's interesting information if you want to read more about this. Dr. Julia Ross, she has the mood cure and the diet cure. And her plan was targeted amino acid therapy. In other words, taking tryptophan or 5-HTP, taking tyrosine, depending on what your symptoms are. But it doesn't replace the food. Remember, food first. So nutrients that increase GABA. GABA is that calming, that anti-anxiety. It puts the brakes on anxiety. Low GABA, the brain gets stuck in the on. Signs of low GABA, easily overwhelmed, excess worrying, racing thoughts. Sound familiar? So how do we increase GABA? It's like, yeah, let me take this. Can I take a GABA pill? Actually not. If you take a supplement and has GABA in it, it's not very effective. It's much too big of a molecule. It can't really cross into the brain. What we do is we take things that help our GABA work better, right? So they're called GABA agonists. Magnesium. So magnesium's coming up a lot, right? So magnesium, foods. Some people like to take magnesium, and it's really important to take it as like a taurate, not an oxide or a citrate. Magnesium glycinate is a good choice. Magnesium taurate is a good choice. L-theanine, taurine, inositol, holy basil, my very favorite herb in the whole world. Passion flower, valerian. Now, you'll see these sometimes in a formula altogether, and sometimes you'll see these separately. And it's sometimes a trial and error as to what works for you. So in terms of herbs and supplements, where to start? Again, always check with your medical doctor. Basics, make sure your multivitamin mineral may have enough B vitamins and magnesium and calcium. Fish oil is a natural antidepressant, a natural anti-inflammatory. Make sure it's high quality. Eat fish. Sardines are wonderful. Vitamin D, we know that less than 20 nanograms per ml of blood vitamin D increase risk of just about everything, not just sleep disorders. And we like to take vitamin D with some A and some K. And here's some article for you, and magnesium. Then we get to our adaptogen herbs. Adaptogens help us adapt to the effects of stress. It sounds nice. I mean, yes, we're going to get the stress. We can't make the stress go away, but how we perceive it, how we react to it, how do we manage it? How do we live our lives with this stress without letting the stress control us, dominate us? So this is our adaptogenic herbs that help to protect against stress effects. Also, they're multitaskers. And so some of these herbs are holy basil, again, there's my fave, eleutherococcus, ginseng, whoops, holy basil's in there twice, you can tell I like it, rhodiola, ashwagandha, schisandra, just saying schisandra makes me feel calm, astragalus and reishi, that's not an herb, it's a mushroom, but sometimes you'll find these all together, sometimes they'll be separate. You can do an adrenal health support, or you can do an adaptogenic formula. And these guys help to calm the stress during the day so that at night you're not wired up and you can relax. Nervines are a special group of herbs, chamomile, passion flower. You notice that there's crossover. Holy basil has multi jobs, multitasker. And again, chamomile tea calms the nervous system. Kava. Kava's been one of my favorites lately. I'll go back and forth for kava. When I was traveling, I used to drink kava. Kava But Kava you can get as tincture or as caps, and very helpful for people to manage anxiety, and then people also good for muscle aches. If there's tension, muscle tension, Kava can be amazing for managing anxiety and muscle spasms. And people can take it at day or night. Mushrooms, there is reishi mushroom, stress reducing, sleep supporting, immune enhancing, cancer fighting. What doesn't reishi do? It's considered the mushroom of immortality, as caps or as powders. So lately what I've been doing is getting powdered mushroom extracts and putting them in my tea or coffee in the morning. Since listening to Michael Pollan's talk, I stopped coffee for a while because he said, why don't you just stop coffee for a while and find out who you are without coffee? I thought, ooh, that's a scary time. But it was interesting, and I did find out that giving up my 1 cup of coffee in the morning, I slept better. I mean, I love that cup of joe. I love the stimulating, but I find I can get a nice cup of yerba mate tea with some milk, and I put my mushroom powder, reishi mushroom powder, or a blend. You also can get reishi as a blend with immune herbs like turkey tail. So you have to get a high quality organic blend, and very nice. Yeah, Christopher Hobbs is a good reference for medicinal mushrooms. He comes every year to the Fungus Fair in Santa Cruz. So here are some resources for you. Why We Sleep is a book by Matt Walker. He's up at UC Berkeley. He's one of the most famous researchers on sleep. So if you want more information on what's going on with sleep, and Matt Walker is a good source. The Sleep Solution, You Are What You Eat cookbook. Eat Right, Feel Right. This is a therapist, Leslie Corin, who I was at a conference with, and she wrote a couple of books about mindful eating. She's got this cute little book about Eat Right, Feel Right, and just making fun little recipes that are simple, that just help you maximize on all the nutrients that support sleep. Rebecca Katz, who we all know and love, who wrote the Healthy Cancer Fighting Kitchen and One Day at a Time books that help with cancer. She also wrote the Healthy Mind Cookbook, which is equally wonderful. And then Nourish the Brain, whoops, oh man, I messed that up. Sorry, let's go through real quick. Nourish the Brain cookbook, and I blocked out the guy's name, it looks like. I'm just going to keep doing it. Anyway, there are those resources for you. And that kind of completes me doing all the talking. So it's so much nicer when we're having a little bit of interaction. But so please tell me what your questions are, and we can chat.
Okay.
That book is by, I'm staring at it. It's by Rika Keck, R-I-K-A and then K-E-C-K.
All right.
Nourish Your Brain Cookbook.
The Healthy Mind Cookbook?
Nourish Your Brain Cookbook. You didn't have the author?
Oh, right. Do you know that one?
I looked, I just Googled it. Rika, R-I-K-A, and the last name is Keck, K-E-C-K.
Cool. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Discover how to keep your brain healthy with 60 delicious recipes.
Well, there you go. There it is. I fixed it. Well, yeah, so RKEC. Yeah, so this is just, and there's The Mood Cure by Julia Ross, about how what you eat and how the symptoms that you're having can help tell you that, hey, what brain neurotransmitters may need an extra love. So questions?
Okay, so we will get started with some of the ones that have come through. One, are you familiar with Kana and honeybush tea, and what do you think of them, if so?
Ooh, no, I'm not familiar with that. Kona? Honeybush tea.
K-A-N-A.
Kama. I am not familiar with that. I am very intrigued. Send me some info.
Okay. And what tea brands do you recommend for chamomile and holy basil and just tea in general?
Just tea in general, yeah. So I like to get my teas always organic. I like to get them from Mountain Rose Herbs up in Eugene, Oregon. Mountain Rose Herbs. I like them. I know them. They often run out of things, which is pros and cons. It's inconvenient. However, it tells me that things aren't staying around. You know, there's a quick turnover. I like Mountain Rose. The other one is Frontier Co-op. That's a good place, good people as well. Yeah, I try to go to the local supplier themselves versus Amazon. I'm a little bit worried about Amazon, how long they've had them there. You know, herbs, you can't keep herbs forever. So I'm glad you brought that up. When you buy your tea, like I go through so much chamomile tea that I buy like a pound of it. And each time you buy something, it's going to depend on the density of it. So a pound of chamomile is going to be different than a pound of holy basil, or you could get like, you know, a pound came out to be this much of an herb, or it came out to be this much, depending on the density. When I get the herbs, they're in plastic. I put them in a glass jar and I seal it. And I probably keep them for no longer than 6 months. And then I like to blend my own teas. So check out the website, mountainroseherbs.com. They have all the different herbs. They have tea blends, and they also have all sorts of tea paraphernalia. So it's a lovely website.
Okay. And the next one is, where or are there good places to buy ashwagandha and reishi powder, or are there specific brands that you?
Yeah, so actually the brands, realmushrooms.com. Real Mushrooms is a pretty good brand. I think that's the one that I'm the most familiar with, because it gets into the quality of how they're grown. And so there's also a local mushroom place. If you go to Santa Cruz on Pacific Ave and Laurel, at the intersection, there's Far West Fungi. And Far West Fungi, they grow their mushrooms in Moss Landing. I've got a chance to visit them. They're really cool people. It's a family-run place. So if you're ever in Santa Cruz and you want to buy them, Far West Fungi, or you can go online. So real mushrooms. And what was the other one? There's another one that I'm, oh yeah, Four Sigmatics, FOURSIGMATICS, foursigmatics.com, and the realmushrooms.com. Those are the ones I'm the most familiar with. You know, just look for organic, see if you can get a sense for, you don't want a lot of marketing hype. You really just want to, you should be able to get a certificate. So for example, you should see on the product, it'll say, this was tested for X% of beta glucans. The other thing about mushrooms that's really important is the lower quality, the less than reputable brands will grow things on like rice or sawdust, the mycelium, and then when you analyze the product, it's mostly rice or mycelium. I mean, rice or sawdust, you don't get a lot of mycelium. And so you really need to have a printout. It'll say on the bag of this percentage of beta glucans, which supports the immune system, and X percentage of the media it was grown on, which you want low. So these are the two companies that I've researched. There's another one, OHM. I think it's OHM, maybe it's OM, something like that. And somebody said they were pretty good, but I haven't used them myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Next one.
And the next one is a question about fat and how much fat somebody should be, or how much should people be eating a day.
You know, this is a whole talk that I'm putting together right now. It's called Fats and Oils, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I get so many questions about what's a good cooking oil, how much fat to eat. You know, it's more like serving size that I would say. So for example, 2 tablespoons of olive oil a day is awesome, or having olive oil is a cancer-fighting food, right? So I would say look at like portion sizes and look at what you're having. So having an egg a day is fine. There's no problem with the fat in that. There's no problem with the cholesterol, unless you are that person who has a familial hypercholesterolemia, which is really rare. So eggs have gotten a bad rap. And then olive oil. So you can't really put a gram put on it. You really have to look at portion sizes. So nuts and seeds, like a 1/4 cup a day for most people. Nut butters, you know, tablespoon or 2 a day. Are you trying to gain weight? Or are you trying to lose weight? If you're trying to gain weight, I'm going to probably include more fat. Where it gets a little problematic with fat is animal fat. That's where we don't want to have, most of the fat we're taking in should be from plant fats, smaller amounts of the animal fat, so that the beef, the things, beef, lamb, things like that. So having like red meat, you know, 2 times a week, but having fish, so having fish, you know, 2 to 3 times a week would be good. And then having vegetarian 2 to 3 times a week. So your oils, about 2 tablespoons, you know, 2 to 4 tablespoons a day. Your nuts and seeds, a 1/4 cup a day. Your eggs, you know, 1 a day, 1 to 2 a day. That's kind of like ballpark, looking at what it is. So if you're having fish, and what's a serving size, depending on the fish, it's typically about 3 ounces. If you're having like lamb, the same thing, you know, the density, and salmon's going to be a little bit different than, say, a halibut, you know, the density of the fish. So a 3 ounce serving, 3 to 4 ounce serving of fish, a 2 ounce, 3 ounce serving of a red meat, things like that. Does that help? I hope.
I think so. And then another one is specifically about magnesium supplements, and certain supplements say magnesium bisglycinate chelate buffered.
Right. And that's a good one. Yeah, I'm glad. That's a really good question. What not to get is magnesium oxide, magnesium citrate, unless you are taking it as a laxative. So if you're on treatment and you're constipated, or you're just constipated, magnesium citrate can be very helpful, right? Brings water into the colon and helps you go, but it's not a good absorbable form. So oxide, that's how you can evaluate like a multi. If it's low quality, its source of magnesium is magnesium oxide, which is not absorbable and it's really cheap. So if it says chelated, that's good. It means it's chelated to taurine, or it's chelated to other things. So you might find like a little bit of magnesium oxide and some magnesium citrate, but it'll also have taurate. It'll also have glycinate. So as far as what's absorbable and what's really good for brain health and relaxation, the glycinate form or the taurate form are a combination. It'll say chelated, and then it'll have a multiple magnesium taurate. It'll have some citrate. It could have some glycinate in there. But if it says chelated, and a good brand, so like a Designs for Health, or you know, a high quality brand, they will know, they will get the minerals. Who's the source of the minerals is what you want to know. And so Albion is like a good source, ALBION, that say Designs for Health and very high level companies will use. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And then somebody was asking about your cashew yogurt recipe and whether you'd be able to share that.
Totally. Yeah, I am so stoked. This is my favorite fun thing right now. Yeah, and yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll send it to you. You got to have a way to heat it so you can get a yogurt maker, right? Which is really, I haven't got one. This is on my list to get. But what I've been doing is my oven goes down. I have a defrost setting, and it allows me to put it to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And so, and if you don't have that, then you put it in the oven with the light on and wrap it in a towel, or you put it in a cooler and wrap it in a towel. And then I take a big jar of hot water and put it next to it. So I've been doing all these things. You know, the only way I'd really know with the organisms is to culture it out, you know, and I haven't done that, but it tastes really great. And cashew yogurt's expensive to buy, you know, and so if you can make your own cashew yogurt. So first you make cashew milk, and then you take some of the yogurt. Sometimes I'll use a regular yogurt or a cashew yogurt and mix it in there. So I will email the recipe to you, Colleen, and you can like spread it out. And then you guys let me know how you do. Okay. Like say, yeah, my light, it works. Of course, how do you know if it works? You need a candy thermometer. Yeah.
Okay.
It's cool. People have been making yogurt forever and ever, you know, so making yogurt is fun.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you. And then we have a few questions about brands and where to buy things. So one being probiotic brands, where to buy
yeah,
oyster mushrooms, and where to buy seaweed and what brands.
and where to buy seaweed? Oh, okay. So probiotics, now they're not going to replace food, right? There's a lot of controversy now about taking a probiotic. It's got to go 30 feet down. How do you know it's going to like get through the stomach acid and it's going to get to where it needs to go? And what should the strains be? Blah, 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 blah. So food, right? Because that helps it get down there. And a diversity, yogurt, cashew yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, beet kvass, kombucha, as many different kinds as you can. So cultured everything. So probiotics, if you do want to take a pill, I'll tell you the ones, there are two brands that there's research for. And those are the ones that I know the best about. And the first one is Ther, T-H-E-R-B-I-O-T-I-C, Therabiotic. And that's by a company called Claire with a K, K-L-A-I-R, Claire Labs. Now those people do research up the kazoo. They're not cheap, as you can imagine. You know, it takes it pretty timely for these guys. So Therabiotic Complete, I think is the name of it. Therabiotic Complete by Claire Labs. And that comes in powder form, which some people claim is better than capsules. I don't know. And oh yeah, so here's the deal you got to understand about probiotics and probiotic food. When that food comes into your mouth, just like everything that comes into your mouth, you get this cool communication starting right away, right? So the plants and fungi and mushroom and bacteria and all these guys have co-evolved together. So there's a huge amount of molecular signaling going on. And when you take that yogurt, or you take BioK, for example, which is one of my favorite when people really need extra, and you swish it around in your mouth, you're starting that molecular signaling, which is starting that signal to your immune system, like, everything's cool, and let's just make sure we take care of business. So when you're swallowing a pill, you don't get that same thing. And then the other thing is that yogurt and the sauerkraut and everything that's making its way down the track, it's actually having that effect all the way down the track. And here's the other thing that's really cool, is they found out that it doesn't have to be alive. There was all these people saying, oh, these probiotics aren't so good because they're not alive. They found that it's bits and pieces of the microorganisms that actually can have this type of effect, you know, so there's a lot of cool stuff going on. So Therabiotic Complete by Claire Labs, that's one of them I really like, or Claire Labs, all of their probiotics. They have a really top team of microbiologists, and they were in the get-go. They were in the forefront. Okay, another company is Seroyal, Seroyal. I can't remember the name of their products, but I know the microbiologist there. He's a Wales guy, and he's really sharp people. These are the people that did clinical trials on. They actually had medical students who volunteered their time to get like stomach aspirates to see if these pills, you know, the organism had made it down there. And so I was pretty impressed with their level of investigation. I can't remember the name of their particular products, but Seroyal. So all of these things are going to be, you know, pricey and expensive. Also, the Therabiotic Complete, I know a lot of clients that have just been taking that forever. And you know, you don't have to take these all the time. You know, you could take them once a week, or depending on what's going on with you. And then another one that I should mention is P-R-O, Flora, F-L-O-R-A, Proflora what? Proflora G or Proflora? No, Proflora 4R, I think. And that's by a company called Botanical Research. And they're down in, I think they're Watsonville or Aptos. I think they're Aptos. And there's a woman there in acupuncture who did a cool lot of research, and Pro4R has different soil bacteria, and those guys can really help get rid of some bad bugs. So I tell people, hey, sometimes you can do like Pro4R maybe a couple times a week, and it just has kind of like a cleanse out effect. Pro4R by Biobotanical Research, and they're in the they're doing a lot of work now because they have a lot of antivirals and immune boosting stuff, and they're cool. They write down in Aptos. So that's what I can think of in the top of my head. But again, don't take the probiotics instead of cultured foods, right? So cultured foods, and then remember, once you get the bugs in there, you got to give them what they want to eat. What do they want to eat? They want to eat sweet potatoes. They want to eat broccoli. They want to eat starches. Do we have another question?
And yes, can you tell us more about genus Prevotella on poor self-reported sleep?
Oh, wow. You have like a microbiology background on that one? That's kind of a bigger answer. I could really go down a rabbit hole on that one. It's probably best for you just do your own research. I'll send you over some articles if you want, but yeah, that opens up a big discussion, fascinating discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we're only have a few minutes left. And then I didn't know if you were also able to think of, I don't think you'd mentioned it, a few places to buy oyster mushrooms.
Oh, so oyster mushrooms you can buy everywhere. Like even Whole Foods has them. I'm glad you brought that up though, because oyster mushrooms are just such a score. So oyster mushrooms, I'll tell you where I buy them. You know, I buy them at Whole Foods, and sometimes they'll be loose oyster foods, or they'll be in a combination of gourmet mushroom mix, and there's oyster, and then enoki, and maitake, and all these. So it's a good idea to diversify your mushrooms. Farmers markets, back in the day when they had farmers markets, some of the farmers markets may be open. Oyster mushrooms, so yeah, I don't even think that Far West fungi, like they're selling anywhere. I think they're just selling dehydrated ones. But I would say Whole Foods or stores like Whole Foods. But one thing about oyster mushrooms that's really, really good to know is that oyster mushrooms are the highest bioavailable protein of all the fungi. Yet no, mushrooms are a good source of protein. Not as much as animal products, of course, but you don't have to have complete protein with every meal. They're easy to digest, highly absorbable protein, and they're just wonderful. And they're so yummy. And they just like, I like to just saute them up in butter and put some spices, and then I put them on the plate, and they would be like where the chicken would be or the meat or something. I find that oyster mushrooms are so tasty, you know, that they are just really, really good. Yeah. So yeah, Whole Foods, you should be able to find them, I would think.
Okay. And any other thoughts or any thoughts about where to find seaweed and what?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too. You know, back in the day, Santa Cruz Farmers Market had the seaweed guy. First we had the seaweed lady who used to come down from Mendocino, but then she got tired of driving. So now we have a local guy, well, I don't think we do anymore, selling the seaweed, freshly harvested seaweed. So let me look up the name. I'm glad you're bringing that up because I gotta connect with him again. Let me find out his name because you can get it online. And it'd be I think it's cool to get it from the people that are harvesting it. Otherwise, what you can do is go to Whole Foods to like the ethnic section, and they'll have packages of dried sea vegetables. It could be like one's nori, one's kombu, one's wakame, or you'll see like a blend of sea vegetables that will just have a combination of them, and they'll be all dried. And what you want to do, they go really well in soups. One of my favorite seaweeds is arame, A-R-A-M-E. I think why I like it is it's not very fishy, and it doesn't look, so I put it in salads. I rehydrate it, put it in salads, or I put it in soups, and I don't get too much like, what is this? You know, like people are kind of like, yeah, this is kind of, what is this? Some kind of vegetable thing? I mean, yeah, it's a sea vegetable. You know, if you don't call it seaweed. And so RMA is a good one to get just on its own. So packages in the stores, wherever stores, like if you get down to Santa Cruz for some ocean medicine, not on a weekend though, you go to Staff of Life or New Leaf, they have a big selection of vegetables. I would say online. I would say, let me do some research on that and get back to you because, you know, we're just missing stuff, right? So I'm missing my Santa Cruz Farmers Market and I'm missing hanging out with my sea vegetable guy and my mushroom guy, right? So I have to like call these people up, you know, or check and say, hey, are you still like collecting? Because now you're the time to collect the sea veggies. So it's probably doing it online. And this guy, this enterprising young man, he actually started making capsules. He started making capsules of it too. So you could take seaweed capsules. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting too. But how cool to just put it in a soup. I really like to put it in when I'm making a mineral broth because it adds so many minerals. What are the benefits of seaweed? Oh my God, sea vegetables, so many minerals. Minerals are calming. Minerals, iodine, you know, iodine, low iodine is associated with breast cancers, ovarian cancers, cysts, any sort of cysty thing, iodine deficiency, and iodine is not something you want to take an iodine pill. It can be weird, right? You want to take iodine from food like fish, shellfish, sea vegetables. They're detoxifying. Yeah. Some people will take like sea vegetable powder. So let me get back to you on that. Getting some sea vegetables, really good to normalize the thyroid, sea vegetable powder. So I'll get back to you on that. Thanks for bringing that up to the limelight.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And I know we are quite close to 2:30, so we might have
we
to
have more questions, we can do a couple more questions if we have them.
Okay, maybe I'll just do one last one. Is cheese okay to eat for the cancer and specifically female gynecological?
I know, right? Don't you just love your cheese? Good cheese is okay. Bad cheese is not. Okay. And good cheese, not a whole lot of it. Right. So it's the same thing like animal foods. What's our mantra for animal foods? The mantra for animal foods is small amounts, high quality. Cheese is an animal food, right? Small amounts, high quality. So that means commercial cheese is out because commercial cheese has hormones in it. Commercial cheese has pesticides, antibiotics, everything. Have to know where's the cheese coming from, right? What's the cow? It's coming from the milk of the cow. What's the cow being given? Is the cow being given bovine stimulating hormone? Is the cow being given antibiotics? Is the cow being given food that it doesn't usually eat, like soy and corn, which makes it inflammatory? Is the cow being given grain that has pesticide in it, right? So that's like a lot. What am I eating? You're eating what the animal ate. So organic cheese, number one. Goat cheese is going to be a lot easier to digest, right? Small amounts of high quality, wonderful cheese. A good rule of thumb is if it's coming from Europe, it's probably okay because Europe has standards. They don't let them give hormones to those animals, at least to my knowledge. So high quality goat cheese or high quality, if it's organic, it doesn't have hormones, it doesn't have chemicals, and small amounts of cheese, because cheese can be addictive, you know, small amounts of cheese, because some of the concerns with that, besides the non-organic concerns, commercial, is that dairy, as part of dairy, it has insulin-like growth factor. So oncologists were like, I don't think this is a good idea if we're dealing with the cancer that's growing. But what we found is, and what most oncologists will say, is that small amounts of high quality dairy is okay. It's a good source of protein. It's a really good source of calcium, and cheese is a cultured food. Yogurt, same thing with yogurt. Small amounts of high quality yogurt, organic, with good bacteria is wonderful. The only time cheese or dairy is definitely not a good idea is if you don't do well with it. So in other words, you have a lactose intolerance, or more commonly, a casein allergy. Casein is the protein that's in dairy, all animal dairy. So if you react to the casein, and how would you know that? You may not know it. It could be so subtle. So what they say to do is remove all cheese, all dairy, 100%, even foods that have caseinate, and then see how you do. It's like, hey, I lost a few pounds, that little weird rash went away, my digestion's better. It's like, uh-oh, that's a sign that maybe you were like, had a problem with dairy. Then do a test, add it back in, and say, and then all of a sudden, wow, you got like a rash, or you got diarrhea, or you got digestive issues, you got tired, you got weirdness. That could be a sign that perhaps you have a casein allergy. And that means that when you have dairy, you're creating an inflammatory response, which is not what we want to do, right? Cancer hijacks inflammation. So even besides that, casein itself can be a little bit inflammatory. So this is where some people, the growth factors in the casein, they said, I don't know about dairy. But small amounts seem to be okay because it's a pros versus a cons. So it's a good protein source, it's a good calcium source, and it's wonderful, right? But getting a pizza, the cheese that you're going to get on a commercial pizza, it's not going to be organic. It's not going to be hormone free. It's going to be, and so that's kind of the deal. So you want to get yourself a nice little piece of wonderful cheese. And the other thing is, one of my practitioners I work with, Donnie Yance, he likes hard cheeses, Parmesan cheese. And so smaller the Parmesan cheese seem to be less inflammatory or seem to be better tolerated. So those hard cheeses, the Parmesan cheese, what are those other kind of cheese? And again, it needs to be organic and high quality. So yeah, I feel you, Pam. I love cheese. I don't do good with cheese. I personally don't do good with cheese. I'm the casein person. It's like, bummer, but you have to figure out what's right for you. But I think just because you're managing cancer does not mean you cannot have cheese. I think you can have small amounts of high quality cheese, small amounts, and totally enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, fabulous. This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us today, Nancy.
Sure.
This information.
I will send